Hey, welcome back to Rise Up in Real Estate live stream. We are here today with Vince and my good friend from the warm, sunny state of Missouri, Shayla Deam. Shayla, so happy to have you here. I don't know, I've got so many great things to say, but is it warm where you are? Tell me exactly where you are so our listeners will know.
Yeah, warm, sunny. I was like, time out. You got your weather wrong. So I think this morning it was a little warmer, but it's been probably low of 40s. Well, low in the evenings, like 19 degrees, running about 40 or so, which is nice when it gets cooler. So yeah, it's not warm at all. How about you?
Today's going to be it's real rainy here, but we've had cold. Like I had to move my plants inside. Like it was not cool.
What's
Mandy
cold?
said, why don't we? Well, we had like at night in the 20s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And in the days, the other day it was 46. That's a high. That's not good for us. Like that kind of shuts us down. We're in coastal South Carolina, for those of you that are listening that don't know. But it's that time of year. We usually have about 2 weeks of winter, so we're just trudging through what we can, do the best we can. Have y'all had any snow?
We did actually. I was saying people are probably walking around in their parkas there with that kind of temperature.
Yes.
But yeah, so we're right smack in the Midwest, right outside of Kansas City, Missouri. Go Chiefs. We pulled a win off last night. I didn't watch it. I just heard it on the radio. But yeah, so first snow, it was only, I think it was just a couple of inches. It wasn't a ton. But Thanksgiving last year, I was driving back from my family, and a trip that normally took 6 hours took us about 10 plus hours. So we were grateful for just a couple of inches. So
we had an over-under on how long it would take you to say "Go Chiefs" on the call, and you hit the under. So good job. The Chiefs, like I was thinking about that last night when I watched that bank of a 30-yard field goal. I think he hits it off the post on purpose because they've won so many games in weird fashion. It's just been the most bizarre thing. A few years ago, Ohio State did this in college football. They beat everybody by like 1 or 2 points, and then they won the national championship. And I almost think Andy Reid's doing it on purpose. Like I think they've got another gear that they haven't gone to yet, and we'll see it. But I was wondering how long it would take you to brag about your Chiefs.
Well, here's the deal. Believe it or not, I'm not huge in football, but being around here in these parts, you have to be. I don't know if I shared this with you, but my son, when we first moved here, in the middle of his 8th grade year, went to his first day of school and wore his Denver Broncos sweatshirt.
Oh,
He's a Broncos fan. And keep in mind, my son's 6'5", like he's an offensive lineman. And when I said that to him, I was like, are you sure you want to wear that? He was like, Mom, nobody's going to say anything to me. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. But yeah, so I watch it. I mean, you have to root for them just because, I'm 15 minutes away from the stadium. So they're definitely fun to watch. It does almost feel like they're dress rehearsaling all of these tactics, to make it interesting for people. Cause I'm sure people are like, oh, not them again. So it's been a fun night for sure.
That's because it's not real, Shayla. I'm convinced. It's like the WWF or WWE back in the day. I think it's different podcast, but
You think it's all scripted?
I think there's a spring on that ball. I don't know. There's something going on.
That's what every loser says about the winning team, right?
Everybody's too.
Reason why they're winning, and you're like, I've been on that other side before.
There's 3-11, so I'm going conspiracy now. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. That's funny. Well, it didn't take you long to say loser either. That's great. Loser and Chiefs. We got those out of the way. Anybody want to cuss? Go ahead and get that out of our system.
Yeah. We could be like David Scott, just add the E to any of our messages.
That's a 30-second timer before we start. I'm just getting all the swear words out.
Yeah, buy it or don't. That's all I can tell you. Buy it or don't.
Buy it or don't.
Today's was good, by the way. I thought I try. My goal is to listen to. That's our coach, David Scott. I try to listen to him and comment before Shayla. That's my goal, actually. Every week, you're on it on like that. Like you're right every time, but you enjoy that content.
Oh, I do. Think of all the substance that's out there for us to absorb. Really, his message and everything that he teaches himself, right, and turn cheers with us, like that's in direct alignment with everything that we do. But I will say I've been a little more reluctant. You can ask Vince. I will comment, but there are times where I do something, I'm like, I'm ready for the arrow, like it's coming. I'll text Vince and go, ooh, ouch.
Yeah.
A little bit, but
I'll text Shayla and say I chose violence in this group chat today. Like I'm gonna say something back and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wants to
Yeah,
be challenged though. So
Shayla, why don't you give we've got some folks listening right now. Why don't you give them a little backstory on who we're talking about and why we're so scared to challenge him?
Oh, I wouldn't even say that it's really scared. I just think that we value what he says so much and and we know that if we're going to respond or challenge him, like we want to make sure we're up on our game. But David Scott was the writer of Momentum, which all of your office and our office follows that momentum system. I've been coaching with David Scott for 7 years. I would consider him somebody that's a real estate expert when it comes to how to develop. So he sold his momentum program to headquarters and has chosen to help coach us over the years. How long have you been coaching with him, Tad?
We first took the momentum class 13 or 14 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's been a long, and it's interesting. Let me cover a couple of bookkeeping things because there's a lot of people on here. I want to make sure that everybody knows what we do. So we're doing this live today. That we're trying this for this season. This is our podcast, and today actually on Spotify is the one we shot last week. So on Mondays, we record live on YouTube and on the social channels and stuff. And you guys can happily share it on your channels if you want to. It's not hard to do. And then this episode next week will be edited and put on social media. I mean, on Spotify, etc. So that's kind of how we go. It's like 2 more episodes. We've got you today, and then we've got Rennie Diedrich next week, which I'm so excited about. She's our broker in charge, but that's like calling Jesus like a prophet. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, it doesn't carry the whole title. So super excited to have her next week. But I've been interested to have you, Shayla. You've been on the show before, and I don't know very many people out there that we've talked about this before. We're very like-minded. Like the 3 of us especially have a very clear focus. I won't say that it's interesting how you described David, and I thought that was perfect. As he teaches himself, we learn from that. And that's exactly how I feel when I listen to him. Is he still devours the content that he wrote more than I do. And I'm using it to build a business. He's still more committed to that daily development of that process than I am. And he wrote it. And we, he's throwing things to us all the time, ideas and things, but I love the way you describe it that way. He's probably on here. Don't be nervous. He does watch. He won't ask any questions. But for those of you that are out there, if you're on social media or YouTube, you're happily put a question, throw us a shout out in the comments or a question so we'll know that channels that part of this program is working. We're on StreamYard. Any question we're open to. Like today, I wanted to dive in a little bit to development, agent development, process development. And things like that. Vince, I should say before we dive too far in, you're looking very clean today. Like, did you get a haircut?
I did.
I mean, that's tight, man.
It's tight.
That is super tight.
District 7, the boys. I have to let this go 1 more week before he shapes this. I'm very regimented with my barber. So,
well, that comes from being in the military, I guess, right?
Yeah. First beard for me. I'm 32 years old. Never done the beard thing. So here we go.
I feel like that's the first thing anybody does when they get out of the military or get out of law enforcement. They're like, beard.
Yeah, the brainwashing was pretty deep with this one. So I went 2 years before I let anything grow on my face. Then I was goatee for a while, and I thought it was cool. But looking back, not a great idea. So here we are, beard.
Tad, he just appreciates the color of his beard right now. So his time will come, right?
Listen, you have 6 kids. You don't have anything black anymore. I mean, my hair's not had pigment for about 15 years. I don't know why. It's just the way it goes. People tell me I look tired. I'm like, yes, because I am.
We need to put you in a red jumpsuit and put you in Manhattan like in Elf when he stops the guy in the red suit with the white beard.
It's a kind way of saying you don't look good. Like, oh, you look tired. You're like, that's nice. Thank you.
Yeah. I have enough Botox in my forehead to not look too tired.
Every time I go to daycare to pick up Grady, he's 2, and I'll have somebody run me in the line. They'll say, "You're looking a lot like Santa Claus," and so I just go right back and get on the Peloton and ride another hour. I'm like, you got to think of what you say, people. The Santa Claus comment. You didn't say a fit Santa. You said Santa. So thanks for that. Lots of discussions. I grew a beard in COVID, and then this is the only other one I've had. My dad had a beard his whole life until he passed, and I never saw him without it. And I said, I'll never have a beard. I was so over it, but here I am. Mandy doesn't like it, which is, what else is new? But here we are. She might be on here too. Mandy, if you want to throw a comment about my beard out there, you can. So let's talk a little bit about, let me see. I'm going to see if you know any of these people that are on here, Shayla. I don't know where these people are coming from. Vanessa. Oh, Vanessa's on here. Kristen, Christina, Joe, and Chris Ward is on there. Matt Hargave. Hey, there are lots of people out there.
Matt's our DOD. Matt
I know
Hargave.
Matt.
We need to have him on. He is. Do you remember Sean Powers from Headhunters?
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt is like a twin of that. Like he knows his stuff. That's why when you said David Scott was watching, I went, oh, hopefully he doesn't get on there and say, what is a V3 strategy and what is RITT? And I would have been like,
that's why I asked for a glossary. I want a glossary.
Did you share said glossary, Vince?
Oh, no, we don't have said glossary yet, but it's coming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you think it's coming. Let's talk a little bit about this whole thing. So, and I did a video this morning. Monday mornings are my days to do my videos. So I shot one to our agents, and then our public video that goes out on Wednesday next week. And David made me start thinking about this morning when he sent that thing today. Like, I think it's interesting. Well, for our position, we are broker owners or managers, or I don't know how to even describe it to the listeners that don't know how our structure works, but we're running real estate companies. I think this conversation will correlate very well to team leaders, that can, right. I think, and to agents who build a business. But it was interesting to me to think about different real estate models. And David hit on the idea today of this dropping of the fee structure, like going what you offer. And I'll never forget, a few years ago, we went to your home, Shayla. We sat in that room with a group of people, and David started his conversation he was teaching us in person, probably 30 people in the room. And he said, tell me what your key item of value is in your brokerage. And I was like, and he goes, that is a key item of value, but not the key item of value. And I was like, oh, darn it. I was hoping to get like some candy for answering first or whatever, but I got shot right down out of the sky. But let's talk about key item of value and how it relates. I don't know your market very well, but tell me, if you asked your competitors, let's call them collaborators, the other real estate companies that are out there, what are the key item of values that exist out there for agents as they're trying to pick where to go? And talk a little bit about that, how you've developed that over time and what you see in your market. And Vince, chime in too, because I know you're sitting in the saddle every day doing it too.
This is my favorite thing to talk about because it's probably the least talked about, right? Everywhere we go. I mean, Vince, how many times do we get asked when you're on a talent finding, in a conversation or a call? It's like, well, how much do you charge? And I always quickly respond with, when you go on a listing presentation and the seller asks you that, do you respond or what do you tell them? And they always say, well, I want to show them the value. And I'm like, exactly. It's the same thing. Because the reason why I feel like we're a little different is because we aren't looking to attract everybody, simply because if somebody's interested in making a move on cost, they will always be looking at a move based upon cost. We don't want this to be a lateral move. We want this to be a move because agents have identified gaps in their business. They've identified the office that they're in is not capable of helping them reach those goals. So over time, we were much like you, right? Trying to identify what that key item of value is. And just like David Scott said on the recording this morning, some of the coaches across the globe have a system or an item of value, but we look at ours as a complete system, coaching, training, consulting, accountability, and mastermind. And I always have this image in my mind, and I talk about this with agents and recruits as well, is think of, and I know David Scott put his pin on it or spin on it when it came to like the spider web, right? But I've always had this image of a wheel, a bicycle wheel, and you look at each of those items, the value is a spoke on that wheel. If I were to remove 2 or 3 of them, what happens to that entire system? The rest of the things have to overwork. And so we go through each of those things and just identifying what's missing, in your business. And a lot of agents think that they just want training, but they don't understand the importance of the consulting and the accountability that goes along with it. So we have said for a long time, it's complete business development around our marketplace. There's a lot of organizations that have training. There's a lot of organizations that have coaching as well, but agents are paying somebody to coach them for it. And then we have a lot of the bigger ones that, maybe have a la carte or don't have anything at all, but man, they're super cheap. And there's something for everybody. Don't get me wrong. There's conversations that I've had where I'm like, no, there's something for you. But man, I really want agents to look at their business and go, am I doing the consumer a favor by just doing a couple deals a year? I believe there's a difference between having a real estate license and running a real estate business. So hopefully that answers your question. I probably threw a lot of extra things in there, but
no, it's exactly. And I saw Vince taking some notes. So Vince, hop in. I'm hard to hop in on because I talk so fast. Just interrupt me whenever. Raise your hand. Shout out to it. But I'm interested. Like when I hear you, David, talk about our competition, really as a broker owner should be like the coaches out there, like Brian Buffini, Tom Ferry. This is a hard one to ask. I got 2 really hard questions to ask on here, and this is one of them. The other one's going to be even worse. Are these, and it's not you, it's all 3 of us to talk about this. I think this is something we should spitball for a second, although I hate that term. It's gross, especially since I have a 6-year-old boy that really loves it.
I hate the piggybacking. Like, like we'd have a piggyback counter in some of our meetings. And I'm like, everybody stop piggybacking. Just make it.
That's just not, or picking your brain. I want to pick your brain. Don't pick anybody's brain. That's
gross. Piggybacker out there. Stop piggybacking.
Yeah, seriously. That leads to, you have to get a shot pretty soon. Anyway, what I wanted to ask is, you said, I think I don't know, this might be an oxymoron. Do coaches have a system? I mean, could you tell me Tom Ferry's system? Could you tell me Brian Buffini's system? Could you tell me Mike Ferry's system? Could you tell me, as I go on and on, Verl Workman? I listen to all their content. I'm right in the middle of Brian Buffini's, but this makes my whole point. In my opinion, I think it's marketing. I think they're trying to sell their product every year. And I think that's exactly why David Scott's only got 7 clients left, is because it's not as sellable as the market needs it to be, because that wasn't ever the focus. Right. It was on development, which doesn't sell. Accountability doesn't sell. So talk to me. What do you think? Like, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not trying to get Tom Ferry to call me and say, "Hey, quit disparaging my content."
Maybe you do. Maybe you do.
I learned. I don't think
Tom Ferry can answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
But if he can, it's going to be towards marketing and sales, and that's okay. That's his objective, right? At this point, maybe 25 years ago, it was a different answer, right?
I think they've marketed. Tab, you saying that, I've thought about that too. Like, they're marketers. They're marketing to a gap in the real estate industry, because if you look at the amount of brokerages that have a complete system, it's very few. 90-10 rule, probably.
Marketing
so
to the
if you look at 90%, I mean, kudos to those guys, because if they're marketing to that gap to 90% of the industry,
it's right to the mediocre.
Yeah.
Right. But what I'm thinking of is when a lot of our agents, and I'm sure there's some people on here listening, and please don't hear me saying I'm because I know we have some Buffini advocates in our company that are like doing amazing things with their business.
Yeah.
But if they are appealing to, if they're meeting a need that they're not getting in our brokerage, how does it change every year? Like right now his platform is so and so. Next year his platform will be so and so. And I don't like David. When I talked to David about COVID, when COVID hit, or I talked to him about the changes in the contract and the lawsuit, he immediately goes back to his content and explains to, well, if you were doing it this way in your listing conversation to begin with, we would have never gotten, or with your buyer's consultation, you would have never gotten to, you can't get sued. It's just interesting to me how that is our competition, but it really isn't. And I wonder how we can be more clear with the development conversation where it is relevant. Like if I have one more person tell me that what we do is outdated, like I'm like, how is
Do they
growth?
share with you why? Like how so?
Well, like, I mean, it's not AI driven. There's not a video class. There's not social media. It shows me how to, I mean, and David would probably admit that when it was written, those things weren't a deal, right? It wasn't a thing. And there have been courses added, modules added, but the shiny object, just like Brian Buffini's just made a lot of money selling. And I love the classes that he's teaching on that new certification. But it's reactionary to the marketplace.
Right.
And I guess like Vince said, that's okay.
Well, I mean,
it's just a different.
You like to see the good in people, Tad. So, and Shayla, I'm sure you as well. So, you know how deeply we believe in what we're, you buy it or you don't, what we're selling, what we're trying to change lives with. Maybe they believe just as intently on their methods, but they have to be ace marketers to get people in the room. So maybe we need to look at ourselves and go, should we sharpen our marketing skills to get people in the room because we so intently believe in what our product is? Right? I don't know. Other side of the coin.
I mean, I'm sure David Scott would say the same thing. And I feel like I have heard him say that. And even listening to Ben Fairfield at headquarters, like, do people know that this is what we do? Because it's not ordinary. So we can't piggyback off of what somebody else does because it's a completely different message. So maybe it's the collaboration between us momentum brokers to create a marketing strategy, because right now we're developing a marketing strategy or a message and you're developing a message. At the end of the day, that momentum message is the same, right? So maybe there needs to be a marketing strategy around the momentum-based offices, because if it is unfamiliar, I mean, think about any new business that goes public. If you haven't heard of it, typically the marketing is what gets you in the door. I mean, my kids, for instance, I mean, they're like, oh my gosh, we need to go try this new restaurant. And I'm like, well, how did you hear about it? Probably TikTok or Instagram or something. So they're just really good marketers, and they are tailoring their product to a gap. And I don't think Brian Buffini, and I'm going to throw him in here because he, I think, is phenomenal and really is focused on the professional, because he's even said, with the new certified full service professional designation or whatever it is, that it's oversaturated with mediocrity. So I think we're in a lot more alignment with him because he has seen so much over the years that he's just like, enough already. So.
Yeah, they all, and those are great points. And Amy Whitmarsh just said, great point. We need to be better marketers of full agent development. And so let's talk a little bit about, Amy, thanks for being on here, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about who our target audience is. Who needs, does my face look red today? Like, was I in the sun? Do I look a little bit red? I mean, I'm looking like I got high blood pressure on here. I don't know if it's because of the white beard, but I feel great. And it was not sunny in my yard this weekend. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, it's the vitamins.
It's okay. I think you just look red because I am a portion of goddess, is what I always say, because there's no color on me. So
China doll. She's a China doll. That's what she is. Who's our target audience? Because I think, how many people want So our key item of value would be complete business development, like trying to take someone, and the way I describe it is you try to have somebody sit down with you and come up with a complete and appropriate business plan for their life, which focuses on what they want to get out of I tell people, like, years ago, somebody decided they're going to charge some money for some eggs and milk. I mean, we don't give things away in this culture, so we have to make money in order to live the life we want to live, and we have to have time to do that. So we're figuring out what people want, so we can do this complete and appropriate business plan, and then we have all these things that you mentioned, the classes, the accountability, the masterminding, the coaching, that focus on how to get those people better. But who wants that really? What percentage of agents want complete agent development, and then what percentage of agents want to be a professional? Like if Brian Buffini right now is saying, let's make this about professionalism. Are they the same thing? Are they different? Is it a higher percentage, lower percentage? What have you found, Shayla, in your business? David said it in his video, in his 5 minutes this morning, actually, ironically. But what do you think?
As far as who's the agent that's attracted to,
like, what percentage of agents is looking for that or knows they want that?
Wow, I'm not real good at throwing out percentages. It would just be a huge guess, but it's not a very high number. And I think a lot of it, again, goes back to them not being aware that there's another way. I think most agents, and I know that to be true, especially when I'm sitting and talking with either an agent that's dissatisfied with their business or somebody looking to get into the industry based upon a conversation they've had with someone. They don't know. They don't know that there's another way. They just assume that it's okay. I can go get my license and go and sell. Yes, that may be true. But again, it goes back to, I feel that the public deserves better. And I think that that's the piece why we have such a bad rap, why the lawsuit came about, why all those things came about, is because there are people out there just running. I mean, they're chaotic in their business. So I would say if I were to put a percentage to it, it would be a very small percentage. Vince, what do you think?
I think there's two percentages we have to talk about, and I've got to throw Gabriel's comment up here, Gabriel Miller. I'll read it out loud. He says, I think most people want it, but when they find out what exactly it entails, it's a hard pill to swallow. So 2 percentages, you have those that want it. That's a bigger number. I want to do a lot of great things. Am I willing to do those things? That's the percentage we're looking for, right? So I have to go back to your bicycle wheel, right? Could you imagine walking into Dick's Sporting Goods to buy a new bicycle because you want to start riding, and one has half the spokes missing and it's flashing and shiny and it's cheaper, and one has all the spokes and it's a little more dull, a little less exciting, but it's going to get you farther? Which one are you buying? You're probably buying the one that's fully spoked, right? But
I think it depends on how hard you want to work. Some people are going to, where they're like, oh, well, this is cheaper. It'll get me there.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the difference. And unless there's a guy standing beside those two bikes explaining the differences and consulting to where you walk out going, I better buy the one with all the spokes. Long-term business building, longevity, relationships. Zillow gets shut down. I'm still in business. Like, that's the bike you want to buy, right? So yeah, maybe we do have getting that word out there is an issue.
Well, and Ted, you said what kind of person? It's 5 internal traits: motivated, patient, accountable, willing to endure.
Patient.
Patient, yeah. Motivated, willing to endure, patient, accountable, learning based.
Let's see. Tracy Huffman, thanks for being on here, Tracy. Exactly how hard do you want to work? What are you willing to pay for success? Whatever that means to you. David always, Matt has a good one. That's a good formula right there. And I guarantee you that's not off the cuff. That's based on his activities and the people he's met. David says it, and I think this is worth discussing. Like that, in general, we're talking about general speaking, humanity. Most humans want. Vince, this is it. Better. They would, if you asked them, would you like your life to be better? They generally most would say yes. There's not many that would say, no, I'd really like to suffer more.
Right.
I'd like to struggle more. I'd like to have less time and less money. Most people would say, so let's say that's 99% of the people, that only the ones that aren't thinking straight don't have that.
Right.
So if all those people want that, then how do we frame it in our world so that, how do you market it? And Shayla, it's interesting. I didn't know this conversation would go here. Like I know you and I talked pretty recently, like in the last 6 months, about let's get the word out, for crying out loud. Let's talk to some people. Let's broaden this whole thing and get more passionate about letting more people know. And it's, by the way, it's not just real estate. It could be like David's training his son in the dental field, I think, about it. Look at Shad. Hey, man, nice to see you.
Shad, I've not
long time no see.
Shad for a while.
Yeah, those of you watching and commenting, if you like this series, get with Shayla. She'll give you our contact, or we'll send it to you at the end, and you guys can get on too, and we can keep having these conversations.
Yeah, I think it's a great conversation to have. But going back to 99% of the people, first of all, the 1% that don't want that are insane, I think is what David Scott would say. But the other 99%, then the next question is, okay, you want that, but are you willing and able to do the necessary things that get you there? Most people, again, will say yes until they actually step into it and do it. And really, it goes back to, it could be two things, right? A lack of discipline or a lack of a vision. You know, if people are making decisions based upon where they are right now in their business, those aren't the right decisions to be made. It's where do you want to go? Where are you headed? And are you doing the necessary things to get you there? What are your thoughts?
No, I love that. And David told me one time, and wasn't supposed to be like a prop David up on a pedestal, because he's just the most normal guy. But I've learned a lot. Like, he'd be one of the 5 people that's meant the most to me. He told me one time when he was talking about raising his children that because I asked him, how could I raise mine better? And he said he only asked his kids 2 questions. What do you want? And what are you willing to do to get it? And I think what my experience, Vince, you can tell me what yours has been, is I don't think people know what they want. Like, I think it's very hard for people to be courageous enough to say, I want to live there, or I want to give this, or I want to earn this so I can buy that. America kind of doesn't teach you. I mean, ego would teach you, yeah, let's do that. But I think for people that are trying to just do the right thing for the public, which is who realtors are, like, we're just out there serving, for them to stop for a minute and say, what do you really want? I'm having this conversation very frankly with my 22-year-old right now. Like, Lawton, what is it? Figure out what you want and what are you willing, because they have to be able to define it. And then what y'all are talking about is now, and what Gabriel was saying, most people are not going to want to pay the price to get there probably, and they might have to lessen what they want, over time. But what do y'all think about that? That's pretty easy parenting. But it works in every relationship, doesn't it?
Right. I mean, look at our school system, and I'm not here to nitpick the school systems, but we have been trained from a very young age to be a product of the world, meaning, where are you going to go work? Like, who are you going to go work for? What are you going to go do? Who do you want to be? And these are questions that are asked. I mean, we're all asked those in high school, and it's like, I don't even know who I am, but yet we get in the cycle. But if you're the entrepreneur, you're like, where is the support for that staff? Where is the nurturing for that? I don't know if nowadays, my kids are adults now. I don't know if they do that in school. I certainly know they start focusing on it in college. Definitely. But it's like, we're trained from a very young age of who you're going to go work for. Sometimes it's mom and dad's business or something like that. So just some thoughts. Vince, what do you think?
Oh, so many things. I'm thinking of so many things. I've got to decide which way I want to go here. Yeah, it's tricky because I'm trying to think of the guys in the books behind us that wrote these books. Like, how did they think about school? Like, how did they do in school? Right? They were, when you think differently, you just think differently, and the courage to go after it almost gets killed over time as we advance through our formal education system. You can say it even into college. It's still, my first year of college was still about taking internship opportunities in the summer to go work for another company, right? So I'm in college, I'm doing my things. I was so deep into it, I went to the military because it was a safe option. So I never felt like I belonged, right? As far as like working for the man or whatever. So transitioning, getting this full circle back to into what we do every day, it's, you've got to find the right thinkers, I think. And like, that's really, really tough to do because there's a lot of real estate entrepreneurs who are not entrepreneurial at all. Right. And that's okay for them. That's probably not necessarily who we're looking for in our companies. But would you agree that there's a lot of employees that are 1099?
Oh, I love that, simply because if you go back and look at agents who were just on the brink of, really getting it, a lot of times it's that discipline, the lack of discipline, because I'll have people, if somebody says something about going and getting a job, I'm like, so you're willing to commit 40 hours to someone, yet you were only willing to show up for your real estate business 8 hours this week or whatever it is. So you're basically investing your time, because there's two expenses in this life, time or money. So you're willing to invest your time that you never get back to go work for someone else to hold you accountable to time investment, so you get paid a certain amount, yet you aren't willing to go to work for your own business for 40 hours this week. And I've even had a conversation with one. I'm like, I will guarantee you. I'm like, what are you getting paid for 40 hours a week? 55. I will guarantee you $55,000 if you show up for your business just like you were going to show up to work for someone else. And they're like, well, and I go, why not? Because you don't believe in yourself and you know that you won't be accountable. That's what it boils down to.
And I think it says a lot about, transparently, they like to go, Vince hit it on the head. I think not everybody, like they entered this, they own their own business now. If they'd have opened an ice cream store and they had to pay rent and had to get people to come in and had to buy product, they own their own business in that way. When you enter into real estate, you don't know that. Nobody teaches you. And that's not anybody's fault. And not everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur. And I think you can find your way in this business and not be one. But when someone says, I'm going to go work a job, that's because they're going to get told what to do. And they know they're going to get an immediate return. I think we need to be very introspective to say, do we have a program or a culture of such way that they know what to do every day?
Right.
It's not a guaranteed money, but do we have the vital activities in such a way that they can come and consume those 9 to 5? How many new agents have you heard me, or even new to real estate, not just new? Hey, I don't know what I'm supposed to do every day. That's fair. That's fair, because it's not, you don't get paid 8 times 4, $40 an hour, for 8 hours a day at the end of 300. You don't get $320 when you go home. Right. You usually get kicked in the teeth by customers and clients when you go home. Right. And if you're lucky, you get paid down the road. So let me read a few of these comments real quick. John Eriks is a dear friend of mine. John, I got your message a couple of weeks ago. You're such a dear friend, I forgot to call you back. But now that I got you on here, he says I don't know if this one will show up. It's a long one. These are all questions that are good to get you to know yourself and other people of the past few years. This is great. If the past few years were a chapter in a book about your life, what's the chapter about if we met a year from now? What would be celebrating? What would you do if you weren't afraid? What's the no or refusal you to keep postponing? What commitments have you made that you no longer believe in? What's the gift you currently hold? So John has clearly asked himself and other people those questions. One of the best interviewers I've ever met, John Eriks. I appreciate you being on here. And then Matt says, good point. Main purpose of consulting is to discover their individual, clear, specific vision. Wow, that's just so hard to unlock the internal motivation needed. Without the vision, you're lost and reactive. Internal motivation. And I don't even know if people know they're lost. I think they're comfortable being lost. That's my take, is that comfort outweighs the idea of being, successful or whatever more is to you or better. Internal motivation leads to discipline, which creates consistency. He's speaking right from the Bible of momentum. Gabriel says, my comment is a reflection on what I struggle with. My life as a realtor was a lot easier when I was running and gunning just operating on happenstance. The dedication and time it takes to be intentional and being a business owner is tough. As ironic as that might sound. No, Gabriel, I think that's it in a nutshell. And I know there's agents out there that are listening to this right now, and will listen to the recording that just they're good at that. They're good at helter skelter. They're good at crazy. They're good at reactionary, we call it, versus proactionary. They're comfortable because that's all they've ever been taught. And this goes back to, I think, what people offer as their key item of value. If you don't have one, it leads to that comment right there, doesn't it?
Well, and
it's either by design or by accident.
Right.
Right. Go ahead, Shayla.
You can have a really good business too. And there's many agents that I've talked to that are producing at very high levels. But when you ask them, how's your life? It's chaotic, right? They're not showing up for the things that they say are important to them. Clients, customers responding at all different hours. And, I just think that's the piece. If they would just recognize that you can have both. But I think, I keep saying, obviously I'm thinking, I just need to pause there for a moment.
Nice good self-reflection.
Productivity is what gets acknowledged. I mean, even look for us as brokers, you think productivity and adding, those things get acknowledged, but it's really getting down to like, this is your life. And to have a very specific, intentional plan for that and making sure that you're investing the proper time. I know when I first got in, I was running and gunning. And if you would have said system and process to me, sure, that sounds great. But how do I get out of the rat wheel to do that? And it wasn't until my young son told me what he wanted for Christmas was for me not to be on my phone. That's a problem. That's a problem.
Wow. I think David would say, and Gabriel, while you're still on your last comment, I want to hear how you feel after being you said your life was easier as a realtor running around, and the dedication to be a business owner is tough. How do you feel now after making the transition? So if you're still here. And then secondly, I think David would say now, Shayla, this is a classic when we don't work for money, we work for the life it can provide. Right. So, I mean, get off your phone, right? I mean, but you have to have processes and systems in place to do that, And
to have these conversations, like you guys are sitting in we call it the recruiting room, right? Where you're having a face-to-face with an agent. Either they've reached out to you or you've reached out to them. And now you're sitting, Vince's slant is, let's see how we can make each other better. Let's collaborate. You bring these things up and it's like sandpaper, like across their skin, right? I mean, it's not, but it's hard to bring up these hard conversations when you just met someone, because they want to know the split. They want to know how good they're going to feel. They want to know. But talk to me about those conversations, Vince, because I know you've had them, and Shayla, I know you have.
Shayla, somebody says to you, "I want to do 15 million. Thanks for the coffee. How are you going to get me there?" What do you say?
Okay, what?
If someone's like, "I want to do 15 million in volume," first thing I say is, "Why?"
Yeah.
Why? Is that good? Is that bad? This is all 101 here. So that's usually how the conversation goes, Tad. And the answer is almost always, thanks for the coffee, So the lack of getting quiet, as you would say, and really, like, I've challenged people in the recruiting room. Hey, we need to get together again after you've done some reflection, right? You need to take some time. Like, there's a ton of potential here. I know we can help you. You've got to take some reflection and really look at, and I'm going to send you some things to help you with what to ask yourself. And we're going to follow up and build a relationship. But it really is typically pretty surface level in the recruiting room until you start peeling back that layer. And if they're willing and able to be challenged, like a talented person, as we say, would be, then it's on, then it's fun. Now we're helping each other out. Right. But if it's just commission splits, leads, office space, then, I'm out.
Maybe it's just old age, but I'm a deep conversation. The surface level conversations, like I can't. And so when I, go deeper, here's the deal. There's a lot of tears in my recruiting room, not because I'm, coming in hot, but I really I've had to work on this because I'm definitely I'll hear you, but then I want to speak, hear you, and then I want to speak. And so it's been a lot of me setting some intention in the recruiting room when somebody would say something, but say, why is that important to you? Or even if they said something and they skipped over it, somebody's mentioned their age or whatever. I'm like, I want to go back to that. You keep mentioning that, but it takes a lot of courage for us to challenge too, right? Especially if they don't know us well enough, but setting the tone, Vince, I mean, we ask for, the permission of, this conversation isn't going to be like any conversation you've ever had. And if there's something you don't want to share, by all means, don't share. But the goal in here is to identify the gaps in your business and to identify if this would in fact be a good partnership, whether it be now or down the road. So look, I just want to be somebody's spare tire. It doesn't have to be right now, but at some point in time,
writing that one down.
So at some point in time, something's going to hit the fan and then they're going to be calling. And as David Scott would say, I want you to be prepared to make an informed and intelligent decision when that time comes instead of being reactionary and picking somewhere because it's.
You know what's super interesting about just the three of us and the people chiming in, and Shayla, you bring an incredible audience, by the way. Thanks. Definitely some high level thinking here, momentum based stuff. I'm a big like tattoo guy. I love getting tattoos, right? It's a thing. So I have one guy I go to and it's a great shop. So he told me one time, he was like, man, you have no idea how many people just randomly walk in here and like, they don't know how lucky they are that this is the shop they picked. Like, we're clean, we're sterile, we're friendly, like it's safe. You know what I mean? And so I look at like real estate brokerages and we're on here passionately, like trying to share a vision and just sharpen each other. Who else is leading companies like this and not just looking to grow for the sake of growth and the bottom line and the income and all that? There is no abundant mindset. It's all scarcity. It's cutting expenses and growing agents. So I just have to put it out there now that like, man, like I'm glad we have the agents we do. And I hope they're glad that we're here thinking this way,
All I was thinking of somebody walking into a tattoo shop asking for the palm tree on their ankle.
That's funny.
You said a mouthful.
A dolphin in the belly button guy.
I mean, go back to us as brokers, recruiters, whatever our titles are, I think is irrelevant. You are more intentional about your conversations in that room about who you're adding versus, look, if we ran an office that we didn't have a key item of value and it was just based upon cost, it'd be like, oh, sure, come, even if it was not that person's best choice to be in this industry. Like I feel a direct obligation if somebody is not cut for this business or whatever the case may be, I feel obligated to tell them, like, look, here's what it's going to take. The time that you have to invest in this, it's not there right now. But there's a choice for them, right? And that's the problem is there is a choice for somebody to be mediocre. And it's just, until that gets fixed.
Yep. And I just had the thought that it'd be nice to have some of these conversations need to be had at the headquarters level with franchise owners before they are allowed to buy. It shouldn't just be, let's see if you're financially able to buy this thing. But that's a whole nother podcast with other people that I could.
Tad, on that note, we're live and this is public and all, but like what's the data look like with the remaining momentum offices in NGI and growth and sales and production, the profitability versus those who don't follow David's methods? I don't know. Franchise, some people can do it completely opposite of us and still look successful, and maybe they are.
It's probably the same as what we say, how many agents are mastery based and how many aren't, because if you even go back and look at our coach, when you think of mastery based, what's the ultimate level? That's you going and teaching. And when you're teaching, you have to consistently educate yourself and evolve and do those things. Well, that's what David Scott's doing. Like he's reading, he's developing to even be able to give the 6 or 7 people that he coaches. My guess is it's probably the same percentage. Tad, what do you think?
I'm a little bit odd because I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it doesn't matter. But my question would be, which broker owners in that model are living the life they want to live?
There you go.
And we are. Do we want more? I don't know. Do we want better? Absolutely. And I just think it's hard for headquarters to measure it because they want, they're giving this big trip for, I mean, they have to measure something. And
Right.
if you measure positive growth of recruits, I mean, you're going to get more than you're not going to get. Like a lot of those people are going to work out, right? But it's not profit. It's not based on profit. It's not based on net income per agent. It's not based on any of the. It's not based on, hey, Tad and Mandy or David Weisman are the owners of the brokerage, that's our model, right? Like I'm teaching agents to live the life they want to live by leveraging their business and their clients. That's what I'm doing. To be transparent, right? That's why all the books are open, or they should be, and we're getting there. So that's what I would, and I think there's a lot of models, like David would say, there's a lot of models that work. Like what I think Gabriel had this comment follow up to what you said, Vince.
I love this.
My life's substantially less chaotic. It's hard to unlearn that. Although I'm still a work in progress from intentional business, I feel empowered and in control. Unlearning the chaos theory is tough, but once you taste what true freedom is, which is intentionality, it's a game changer. See, the hard thing about all of this is it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
And it doesn't happen easily. You have to grow into this. When we decided to do momentum, it was like Mandy and I looked at each other like, we're number one in the market. Vince, I don't know if you knew that or not, but we were number one. We had number one market share. And we said, let's take this thing apart because abundance matters that much. And we've talked about this for 12 years, and we still have people that look at me like I've got a horn on my head. But what matters is the quality of life of the people that work with us. Some people's quality, and it's all, that's the beauty of it, Shayla, isn't it? It's different for every human being.
Right.
You have to figure out, help them figure out what that is for them. And it takes several conversations and maybe years of being in an organization and hearing it for them to go, I want that. And that's what I want to pursue. And this is the model that allows me to, to get there. So I didn't mean to get off on that tangent. These are great comments and conversations. For sure. Go ahead.
I think what you said was great. And the key piece to that is there a broker? Is there a director that's going to walk alongside me on that journey? Because I think without you, without David, without Matt, without myself, without Vince, people that are truly invested. I don't know about you, but I wake up every day, thank goodness. But I wake up and think about their businesses and their lives. And I think how many other brokers are truly that invested where they wake up and they care about every single person's success on their roster, whatever that looks like, right? You can walk the halls and there's going to be different levels of success. And that's okay. If somebody wants to be number one, that's okay. But there may be somebody that doesn't want to be number one. Maybe an abundant life to them is, 100,000 and having this extra time to spend with the family they care about. To me, that's a winner too. And knowing that I can help transform their lives is really what keeps me in this role, because it's hard what we do. Let's just be honest. It's hard what we do. I mean, we get, it's like a landlord, you get the bad calls, or, you just get the challenges, or you get that agent that you thought was so loyal to you and you were so invested in them, walk in and go, I'm going to make a change. And you're just like heart sunk, right? It's like, how do you get away from that feeling and still wake up every day and fully pour into people, knowing that, the choice is theirs. So.
Well, I could ask you and Vince this both, like, why are you that way, Shayla? Like, why do you wake up thinking about that? Most people wake up thinking about themselves. I mean, let's be honest. Like, what did you change into that? Did you grow into that? Is that the kind of genetically who you are?
You can ask my mom. I certainly wasn't born this way. I'm like, me, right? Well, every little girl probably does. I will tell you the transforming moment for me. Sean Powers introduced me to the book, Purpose Driven Life. And he goes, Shayla, I just want you to go and read the first sentence of that book. And I don't know if you've read it, but the first sentence says, it's not about you. And that just created, me going down the path of reading and being more internally how can I serve? There's a book out there called The Biology of Leadership. If you have not read this book, go read it. It is so good. But he talks about there's 4 ways that people show up into a conversation. And this will come full circle here in a second. But he says there's 4 ways people show up. They show up a spectator, a leader, a victim, or a cynic. And he goes, you can be in and out of any one of those in any given conversation. He goes, but every Olympic team wants what on their team? They want a leader. They don't want a cynic. They don't want the victim. And to take somebody from the victim mentality or any of these other mentalities it's how can I serve? That's what puts you into that leadership, is you're not thinking of yourself, you're thinking of others. And so doing that in my faith, honestly, Tad and Vince, really had me recognize that I was put on this earth to make a difference, and to impact and help other people. It has to be about them. It can't be about yourself. And don't get me wrong, there's days where I go home and I'm like, I just want it to be about me for a moment. I just want it to be about me for a moment, if I'm just being honest. But to really be in that servant mind, I mean, it's hard work, but it's so meaningful. And it's just, I feel like I'm living the life for sure, even though there's challenges. So
good feeling. I was tired of being so selfish. If we want to be like transparent and blunt about it, right? So whenever I realized what we were building here, what you all were building, and then even as a young, brand new to this whole mindset, I met Shayla too, and we had conversations, and I just bought it, right? You buy it. My turning point, Ted, I haven't even told you this, but like the reward, I'm there's, wants, desires, passion, and obsessions. I'm creeping into the obsessive side of like seeing someone like a Kelly Coggins in our brokerage come from where she was to where she's at now, and seeing how happy she is. How do you not want more of that? So you mean to tell me I'm on this earth at a time and place where I get to have that kind of impact on someone's life? We get to cry in a Starbucks together, and a year later we're hugging because her life is abundant? Come on, man. That's pretty cool. And Shayla, you talk about success a minute ago. We throw the word success around a lot. I watch crocodile hunters, and these guys that are shooting these gators, they don't have, maybe $1,000 in the bank. Who knows what they have? They're having these parties with their families. They're happy. They're so happy. And you can see it on their faces, right? So that's 2 things, Tad. Sorry, but
I'm like, what?
I love that. I love that. We always go to the crocodile hunters. We got to get there.
I sit there and I watch it and I get envious. I'm like, man, these guys are really content and happy. Their cousins, their aunts, their uncles, they're having these big crawfish dinners. And somebody on the outside might go, oh, they're poor, they're broke, they live in the middle of the woods. These people are going, no, we got it figured out. We got it all. The stress levels they have, none.
Well, that goes back to success. When we look at, you can be rich or you can be wealthy. And to me, to be wealthy is having the time and the money to live that abundant life, versus you can be rich and have a whole ton of money. And you can also be internally dissatisfied. You can feel a lack of purpose. You can feel a lack of meaning for your life, because all the money, you can always make more. But to me, that internal transformation is something that no market, no rude DMV worker, nobody can take that away from you. So to invest in that, and that's the thing is there a financial gain for that? I don't get paid to internally work on myself directly. However, man, the meaningful relationships that you have, the impact and the transformation that you can make, and in turn, have a good business because of it, I think is, I don't know.
I mean, Gabe said it, right? You're unlearning the chaos. Once you've tasted content, but still, content's a funny word, right? Because you still want to be discontent and grow. But if you're happy and you really feel abundant, you taste that, you want that forever, right? So what's tricky to me is in the real estate industry, say we're looking for talent and we mean all this and we have all this, but people still run to the cheaper option or what seems, you know what I mean? And it's are other people as intentional as we are and they just do a better job at explaining that? Or is it really truly only 10% that this is going to click with?
Yeah, gosh, you guys made me think about a lot of things.
I know you're
I
so
was
quiet, and that's
well, no, yeah, that's unusual, and the listeners are so thankful that I'm being quiet. When y'all were talking, I was thinking about teams. You know, if any agent is listening about building a team, I'm challenging you to wonder if you're this selective when you pick your team members. First, do you have a plan? Do you have a blueprint for what you're trying to accomplish? Have you thought about all the roles and tasks and your vision? For one thing, I was talking to someone who had 12 team members at another brokerage, and they came to us and they kept 3, and it was because the other 12 were taking all the profit of the 3 that were making money. They were sacking it, and that's the same way we're talking about in the brokerage. But my favorite sports story, probably one of them, is I actually knew Michael Jordan. Not knew him like he'd call me, but I was a golf pro. I regripped his golf clubs every summer. He would come and play at the course where I worked, so I knew him well enough that he knew who I was at that moment in time.
Get him on the podcast.
And it was when he was winning. I'll get him on the podcast. I did see Ed Piotrowski yesterday, and I might get him on here soon.
Oh, yeah,
Shayla, you have no idea who that is. But when I saw him, he was in his prime in college. Like in college, he was an okay basketball player. Bear with me, Shayla, at UNC. Didn't make the team as a freshman, and then when he got drafted, he went to Chicago, and he was pretty good. Well, we know the story. Like probably one of the most selfish athletes of all time. But you look at elite in every category. I mean, I could say the names: Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, LeBron James, Elon Musk. I mean, these people have one thing in mind in general, and that's how can I make this better? So, but when Michael Jordan had the prime of his career, long story short, was when he recognized he could not do it by himself. That's when he allowed Scottie Pippen. He used to say, I'm not going to score the first 10 points of the game. And he could have. I'm going to let Scottie, and I'm going to let Cartwright, and I'm going to let Kerr, I'm going to let all these guys score, get their excitement, get their momentum, their belief in themselves, and then I'll do my thing. That's why they won 7 championships. That's what we're talking about, is the ability to, how can we help support people? But I do believe real estate, for some reason, attracts servants, but we're kind of rewarded for financial gain. Remax does it. It drives me crazy. We give these awards based on clubs, and I have agents say, I want to be a platinum agent. And I'm like, okay, how does that translate to your life? You can spend every cent of that in a minute, and that won't make a difference in your life. But anyway, I think team is an interesting concept to consider. Like you got to be serious about building that group, and that's what y'all do when you pick. And I don't know if agents out there listening to this, like, I bet they're rolling their eyes partly because do y'all really think that way, or do you really? I mean, this is a lot what we've talked about. This is deep.
They do.
This is serious.
Well, and think of from a broker level, Tad, what we do, we just have more of the financial overhead than what a team lead would have. Not saying that they don't have overhead, right? But when you take legal responsibility and all those things, but it's the same. Like you sit and have a conversation with them, and they could have multiple people on their team. And yet, you know, I've had some that are, well, but I'm like, the only reason why you would be worried about the cost right now for the ones is because they're unproductive. Having 12 people on your team, sure, it might look sexy. Can I say that?
Okay.
Might look sexy on the Real Producers magazine and all these things, but if you go one by one, how much are they really making, and how much is their life being transformed? I would rather have 3 healthy mind, body, soul, bank account, all those things productive, and it only be a team of, 3 people versus a team of 12 because it looks good. Like, it's the same thing from the broker level. Like, are you intentional about who you bring on? Most of them were like, oh, when you ask them how they started, most of the time it's because somebody's said, hey, like, I see what you're doing. I want to be just like you. And they just bring them on, right? And try to implement their, some of their systems into it. But go look at the cash flow quadrant, that top right-hand corner requires you to develop those people as well.
Yeah.
And most of them, they're just teaching them to run and gun and sell and not actually, develop them. So.
Right. Well, we're an hour and 4 minutes in, Shayla. I don't want to take your whole day. We could take the whole day. And people will listen because you brought some great guests. I want to thank all of you, and y'all come back on next week and chat with Rennie if you're available from 10 to 11 next Monday Eastern Standard Time. I want to close with this because it was part of the conversation I had this morning in my video. And David loves this. Like, my wife asks me on occasion, like, how do you feel about the market or real estate? I mean, we're in a position as a brokerage. We're doing a lot of things, like with acquisitions or with relationships down the road, or growth, leases, buying buildings. And she's like, how do you feel things are? And this is the honest truth. And it might be ignorance, but I don't think about it. I think about having great conversations with great people on a regular basis and figuring out who needs to be added to our group. And not even at my level, that's what I'm thinking of. I know you guys do that in the recruiting room and development room, but I'm having great conversations with 3 or 4 people right now that could really change the trajectory of things. And that's just all I spend my time doing. And I get so focused on it. The election had an effect, but I don't really think we're going to keep doing our thing, right? So vital daily activities, even for the 3 of us, is the key, isn't it? For any area of your life. Talk about, you guys give your closing comments on that topic, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
Yeah. Agents, team leaders, brokers, owners, it doesn't matter. But if you don't know those vital daily activities, you're wrong, right? Highest and best use. Let's figure those out. If you're out there listening and you want to figure those out, reach out to any of us. We'll do that together. But to answer your question, Tad, the agents out there rolling their eyes, and I just said to a group of 6 agents last week, I didn't believe Tad when he first gave me the whole Abundant Life deal, right? I was like, okay, cool. Like, that's a great take, man. And then when I realized it was true and I realized it resonated with me and I bought it, right? So that's the same way I view it. And I think someone rolling their eyes at even this conversation, there's something deep going on there, but I bet they secretly want it, right? I bet they secretly want that. But to me, it all comes back to, buying it or not. But I could ramble on forever about this, but Shayla, hit us.
It's actually buy it or don't.
Yeah. Okay. Words matter. Words matter. We're in the South. You buy it or not. Okay.
Y'all buy it or y'all don't.
Y'all buy it or you don't.
Oh, weird. How do I even recover from that? So, closing statements. I really, truly want agents to know that there is another way. There is a different way. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some deep conversations. But if you recognized in other people who have walked that path, who have tasted the life of abundance and understand what it is, I think it would be a journey worth going on. It's going to take some time, energy, and effort, but we only have one shot at this. We go back and look at the last hour and 7 minutes. We're never going to get that back. And why not invest in your business and in your life and do it different? And then to be able to look at other people and also, share with them that real estate can be done different. There's definitely chaos and mediocrity that's oversaturating our industry, but little by little, one by one, making those transformations, and then those agents in turn, shouting from the rooftops about how their life has changed, I think is relevant. I think it's important. And there are days where I feel as though it's vital to make that decision if you want to be in a long-term sustainable business. So.
Interesting comments. That makes me think of 100 other things. Matt wrapped it up, says you're either glad you did or you wish you had.
Back and forth.
We're going back and forth with that. So Rise Up Nation, thanks for joining us today live. Thanks for some of the special people that came on for the first time today. We appreciate you. Shayla, you're one of my favorite people. I've enjoyed watching your story unfold. I'm your biggest fan from coastal South Carolina. Thank you for taking your time to come on the show. I look forward to seeing you in January in your neck of the woods. We're going to come and enjoy that time together. But I guess, wrapping up, it's interesting for you guys to think about this as we go. We've talked a lot about abundance today. We've talked about a lot about the life you would choose. We've talked a lot about, it seems like you, but isn't it interesting that in order for you to discover what's best for you, you have to help other people get it. Like it's the ultimate, it seems like the ultimate selfish question, but isn't it the ultimate selfless question when we are as an industry focused on the public, and what's best for the public is for you to be the best you can be. And I think that's worth the discussion. I didn't even get to ask my other hard question. I'll ask it next time. It was really hard. But Amy, thanks for being on here. Matt, Gabriel, Shad, Vince, as always. I'm gonna have to step up my haircut game if you keep getting tighter every week.
Sure.
But you guys have a great rest of your day, and we appreciate you being on here. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Bye. See ya.